Welcome to Paranormal Pages. Please drop a like or comment if you want to help the channel. Now let's get into the true scary stories. The caller in the mirror. I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. My eyes were heavy, and the world around me swayed in and out of focus. A quick glance at the screen made my heart lurch. It was a video call from me. My own face stared back at me, pale and frozen, framed by the darkness of my bedroom. The only thing moving was my mouth, screaming, though no sound came through. The words were clear enough: don't trust anyone. Instinctively, I sat up, the cold sweat gathering on my back making the room feel even more suffocating. My hand trembled as I pressed the button to accept the call, but the screen flickered and went black before I could make out anything more. My own reflection in the glass seemed to mock me, my wide eyes searching for some explanation. How was that even possible? I scrambled out of bed, pacing in the tiny apartment I called home. The shadows of the streetlight slithered through the curtains, casting long, shifting patterns on the floor. Don't trust anyone, the words echoed in my head, each syllable chilling my bones. A faint sound, almost imperceptible, drifted from the hallway, a soft scraping like nails on wood. I froze, listening. It was late, and my building was usually silent by now. I moved toward the door, my hand hesitating on the knob. I was being ridiculous, right? It was just a dream. That's all. A glitch in my phone or some weird nightmare. But then again, who dreams of themselves in a way so vivid, so real? With my pulse thudding in my ears, I pulled open the door a crack and peered into the hallway. Empty. Except? No. There, near the far end of the hallway, something moved, a dark, hunched figure dragging itself across the floor. I held my breath, squinting into the dim light, but it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. I blinked, stepping back and quickly shutting the door. My mind raced, and I pressed my back against the cool wood, my heart hammering. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I fumbled with my phone again, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Maybe it was some sort of sick joke. Maybe I was just exhausted. But before I could unlock it, another vibration pulsed through my hand, another call. My throat tightened as I glanced at the screen. It was me again. The same image. My face, but somehow distorted this time. Dark circles under my eyes, skin clammy and pale. The scream was silent, but my lips moved faster now, frantically repeating the warning, don't trust anyone. I couldn't look away. I didn't answer the second call. My thumb hovered over the screen, but fear had locked my muscles in place. My distorted reflection on the phone's glass looked back at me, mouth gaping in a soundless scream. Then the phone went black again. The silence that followed was so thick I could hear my own shaky breath echo in the room. The air felt tight, oppressive, and in that moment, I had never felt more alone, or more watched. The scraping sound returned, louder this time. Like something was dragging itself closer to my apartment door. I rushed to the peephole, peering into the hallway again. For a second, it was silent and still, nothing there. Just as I was about to turn away, the lights in the hallway flickered, casting eerie shadows. And then I saw it. That figure. It wasn't crawling now. It was standing. Tall, impossibly thin, almost skeletal. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side as though its neck had been twisted too far. I staggered back, heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't imagining this. Whatever this thing was, it was real. And it was getting closer. The door seemed so fragile now, like a flimsy barrier between me and whatever was out there. My phone vibrated again, pulling my attention. Another video call, but this time it wasn't from me. It was from an unknown number. The screen read, answer or die. My heart skipped a beat. This had to be a nightmare, right? Some sort of twisted, sleep-deprived hallucination? I considered turning my phone off, just shutting the whole thing down and trying to regain control of my senses, but the scraping outside grew louder, more insistent. I could almost feel the wood of the door vibrating with the sound. Something was trying to get in. Against every ounce of logic, I swiped to answer. The screen went black, but this time, the voice that came through wasn't my own. I see you. It was low, guttural, and distant, like a voice echoing from the bottom of a well. My blood ran cold. I clutched the phone tighter, eyes darting around my apartment, looking for the source. But the room was still. Empty. Then the voice spoke again, clearer this time. "Look behind you." I froze. No. This was a trick. I knew better. "Don't turn around," I told myself. "Just stay calm, breathe. It's not real." But the air felt colder suddenly, like an icy draft had blown through the room. Against my better judgment, I turned. There, in the reflection of the window, was my own face again. But this time, something was horribly wrong. My reflection grinned back at me with a smile that wasn't mine, lips stretched unnaturally wide, teeth too sharp, too long. My eyes weren't my own either. They were black, empty, voids of darkness. I stumbled backward, almost dropping my phone. My reflection stayed where it was, still grinning as though mocking my fear. The voice in the phone crackled through again, more urgent now. "It's coming. Run." And that's when the knocking started. Slow, deliberate knocks, like something, or someone, was trying to break through the door. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, each thud shaking the door in its frame. I felt my throat tighten as panic surged through me. My legs were weak, but I forced myself to back away, eyes fixed on the door as though willing it to hold just a little longer. My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another message, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the door. Then came the scratching, a slow, torturous sound of nails dragging across the wood. Whatever was outside wasn't trying to break down the door anymore. It was playing with me, testing how long I could stand it. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there waiting for this nightmare to unfold. I ran to the windows, desperately trying to pry them open, but they wouldn't budge. The lock felt like it was sealed in place, the glass colder than ice. "Come on, come on," I muttered to myself, fingers slipping as sweat made my palms slick. But no matter how hard I tried, the windows wouldn't open. Suddenly, the knocking stopped. Silence fell over the room again, thick and suffocating. I swallowed, turning slowly back toward the door. There was no movement, no more scratching. Had it gone? My phone buzzed once more, the screen lighting up with the same message I had seen before: "Don't trust anyone." But this time, beneath the text, a new notification appeared: "Unknown caller, incoming video." My hands were trembling as I picked up the phone. My gut told me not to answer, but something stronger, some dark curiosity, compelled me. I swiped right. The screen flickered, then revealed the hallway outside my apartment. The same hallway I had stared into only moments before. The lights flickered dimly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. But this time, there was something there. Standing just out of frame, barely visible in the dim light, was the figure. Tall, grotesque, with limbs that were too long, too thin, like some twisted shadow of a man. Its head was tilted, and even though I couldn't see its face clearly, I could feel its eyes on me. My phone crackled with static, but then, as clear as day, the voice whispered, "It's inside." I dropped the phone, heart pounding so hard I thought my chest might burst. My eyes darted around the room, scanning every shadow, every corner. The knocking might have stopped, but the thing outside? No, it wasn't outside anymore. "Who's there?" I croaked, my voice barely audible, echoing off the walls. I didn't expect an answer, but the silence that followed felt heavy, unnatural. And then I saw it, just a flicker of movement in the mirror across the room. It was subtle at first, like a shadow shifting, but as I watched, horrified, the reflection in the mirror started to move on its own. My own reflection stepped out of sync with me, turning its head toward the door while I remained frozen in place. The grin, the same hideous grin from before, crept across its face, teeth sharp and gleaming under the dim light. It raised its hand and pointed toward the door, its black, hollow eyes locking onto mine. A low creak filled the room. The door, which had been firmly shut, began to inch open. Not from someone outside, but from inside the apartment. From me. I was staring at myself, at the twisted version of me that had crawled out of my reflection, standing on the other side of the door. "Don't trust anyone," it whispered, but this time, the voice wasn't in my head. It was coming from its mouth. I couldn't breathe. My body felt paralyzed as the thing, my own reflection, stood at the door, staring back at me with that twisted, malevolent grin. Its mouth opened again, wider than any human mouth should, and it spoke in a low, rasping voice that made my skin crawl. "You invited me in." I shook my head, trying to regain control. "No," I whispered, backing away. "I never." "Yes, you did." It took a step forward, moving with a fluidity that wasn't human. It glided across the floor, closing the distance between us far too quickly. "You answered the call." My back hit the cold wall, and I was trapped. The room seemed to shrink, the shadows deepening around me. The air was thick, and every breath felt like a struggle. My phone buzzed again, but I couldn't look away from the creature wearing my face. Its empty, black eyes bore into mine, hungry and knowing. "Don't trust anyone," it repeated, but this time, the words were accompanied by a sharp laugh, as though it found my terror amusing. I glanced at the mirror where it had first appeared. My reflection was still there, standing motionless, watching. But it wasn't me anymore. I was the reflection. The realization hit me like ice water. I wasn't the one trapped in this room, I was trapped inside the mirror. My mind raced as I tried to process it. My reflection had taken my place. It had crossed over. And now, I was the one looking in. But how? How had this happened? The thought circled in my head, disorienting me. My hands trembled as I reached for something, anything, to break the mirror. But my hand went right through the glass, as though it were smoke. "Too late," the creature whispered, stepping even closer, its breath cold against my skin. "You never should have answered." I forced myself to speak. "What do you want from me?" My voice was barely audible, strangled by the terror gnawing at me from the inside. The thing wearing my face cocked its head, as though considering the question. Its smile never wavered. "You. I want you." It pointed again, and I turned toward the mirror, finally seeing the full horror of what had happened. The figure trapped inside wasn't a reflection anymore. It was me. My real self, banging silently on the other side of the glass, eyes wide in panic. The monster had stolen my life. I spun back to face it, my mind screaming for a way out. I had to do something, anything, to reclaim what was mine. But as the creature reached out, its hand now inches from my face, the buzzing of my phone stopped. Silence. The creature leaned in close, its hollow eyes inches from mine. "You'll learn soon enough," it hissed. "This world is full of doors. You just opened the wrong one." And then, the lights went out. For a split second, everything was pitch black. My heart thundered in my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. And then, just as quickly as it had disappeared, the light flickered back on. But the room was different. The shadows had shifted, the walls distorted. And the thing that had been wearing my face? Gone. I was alone. I looked down at my phone, which was now lying at my feet. The screen cracked. A notification blinked across it, unread, "Final warning." I picked it up, hands shaking, and tapped the screen. The video feed from the hallway came back. This time, the figure standing in the hall wasn't some grotesque thing. It was me. Not the creature, not the twisted reflection, but me, outside. "Don't trust anyone." My own voice came through the phone. And before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. "Hey. Subscribe for more true scary stories." Story 2. Reflections of Fate. It all started with a dare, something trivial and impulsive. "Bet you won't visit Madame Corvina," my friend Jake had taunted. I didn't believe in fortunes or crystal balls, but I never backed down from a challenge. So there I was, standing outside her dilapidated shop, the faded sign barely visible through layers of grime. The air was thick with the stench of mildew and burned incense, creeping into my lungs like a fog I couldn't shake. Something about the place felt wrong. When I entered, Madame Corvina was already waiting. She was older than I'd expected, her gray hair tied back in a messy knot, eyes black and sunken. She sat behind a small round table draped in dark velvet, her fingers already resting on a murky crystal ball that glistened faintly in the dim light. "You seek answers," she murmured without looking up, her voice crackling like static over a radio. "But the truth is not what you wish to find." "I'm just here for fun," I scoffed, shifting uncomfortably. Yet her eyes met mine, freezing me in place. There was a glint of something ancient behind them, something knowing. "Let's see what the future holds, then," she whispered, her fingers sliding over the glass orb as if caressing a hidden secret. I felt a cold shiver as she began to hum softly, her voice blending into the dim atmosphere. The orb clouded over, swirling with dark mists. I leaned in, despite myself, heart pounding in a strange mix of fear and anticipation. At first, I saw nothing in the shifting smoke, but then shapes began to form. There was a figure, familiar, yet distant. It was me. I stood in a darkened room, facing something just out of view. The me in the vision reached forward, trembling, as if about to grasp something I couldn't see. Then, a crack in the reflection, something moved behind me, a shadow, no. A figure. It was watching, waiting. Its eyes were hollow, black voids of nothingness. "What is this?" I stammered, trying to pull away, but Madame Corvina's grip was like iron. Her eyes had gone wide, her lips pulled back into an unsettling smile. "The future," she hissed. "Your future." Before I could protest, the vision shattered like glass, and I was back in the dim, musty room, staring at the ordinary crystal ball as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake the dread curling around my spine. That thing behind me in the reflection. I could still feel its gaze. Madame Corvina leaned forward, her voice a low rasp. "You will see it everywhere now. Reflections, mirrors, windows. All show what's coming for you. And when it does..." She didn't finish, but I didn't need her to. I bolted from the room, the lingering scent of burned incense chasing me down the street. I swore to myself it was just a trick of the mind, a clever illusion designed to scare me. Yet as I walked past a shop window, I caught my reflection out of the corner of my eye. And there, standing just behind me, was the shadow again, watching, waiting. I told myself it was nothing. It had to be just a trick of the light, or maybe Madame Corvina's creepy theatrics still playing on my mind. But that night, as I lay in bed, my thoughts kept drifting back to the vision. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see the figure, its dark, hollow eyes piercing through me. Sleep never came. Every creak of the house, every rustle of wind through the trees outside sent my heart racing. It felt like I wasn't alone, like something was watching me from just beyond the edge of darkness. The next morning, I splashed water on my face, trying to shake the exhaustion that clung to me like a weight. As I looked up into the mirror, there it was again. Just behind me, a faint silhouette. I whipped around, but the bathroom was empty. The shadow had been there, though, I was sure of it. I could feel it watching, always watching. I didn't tell anyone about it at first. Who would believe me? Jake would just laugh it off, probably make some joke about me being scared of a fortune teller. But I wasn't scared, at least, not at first. I was unsettled, disturbed by the strangeness of it all, but it didn't really become fear until the vision started getting worse. It wasn't just mirrors anymore. It was everything. The shiny surface of a parked car, the glass door at work, even puddles on the street. Every reflective surface seemed to betray me, showing me not just my own face but that looming shadow just behind. Always in the same place, always watching. And every time, it seemed closer. I tried to ignore it. At first, I simply stopped looking in mirrors, avoiding any surface that might show my reflection. It worked for a day or two, until one afternoon when I stepped into the elevator at my office. I pressed the button from my floor and stared at the ground, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw it again. The elevator's metallic doors reflected the figure standing behind me, closer than ever. Its hollow eyes stared directly into mine, as if daring me to look. My heart pounded in my chest, cold sweat prickling my skin. I couldn't take it anymore. "What do you want from me?" I whispered to the empty air, feeling the weight of the thing's gaze pressing down on me. But the elevator remained silent, its cold, sterile light flickering slightly as we continued to ascend. I could hear the hum of the machinery, but underneath it, something else. A low, distant sound, like breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing that wasn't mine. When the doors finally opened, I practically ran out, not caring who saw me. I didn't even care if I looked insane. I needed answers. My thoughts spun back to Madame Corvina and the crystal ball. She had said I would see it in every reflection, but she hadn't told me why. And she hadn't told me what would happen when it finally caught up with me. I had to know. Without another thought, I grabbed my coat and left work, heading straight for Madame Corvina's shop. The streets blurred by, the cold autumn air biting at my skin. I didn't care. I just needed to find her, to make her undo whatever curse she had placed on me. But when I finally reached the shop, my heart sank. The windows were dark, and the door was locked. A sign hung loosely from one hinge, closed. For good. My breath caught in my throat. How could she just disappear like that? Panic surged through me, my pulse pounding in my ears. I pressed my face against the glass, peering inside, but the shop was empty, abandoned. She was gone. And just then, in the reflection of the shop's window, I saw it again. The figure was standing behind me, closer than ever. I staggered back from the window, my pulse racing in my ears. It was right behind me, so close I could almost feel its cold breath on the back of my neck. My hands trembled as I turned around, but there was nothing. Nothing but the empty street and the gray afternoon light stretching over cracked pavement. But in the reflection, the figure had been there, closer than it had ever been. I hurried home, half running, half stumbling. Every surface I passed, windows, car doors, puddles, seemed to flicker with that same haunting image. No matter where I looked, the shadowy figure was there, following me like a second skin. I couldn't outrun it. I couldn't escape it. But I couldn't face it, either. What was I supposed to do? What could I do? Back at my apartment, I locked the door behind me and drew the curtains. Every mirror, every reflective surface, I covered them with blankets and towels. My bathroom mirror, the kitchen window, even the glass on my phone. I couldn't take the chance of seeing it again. It was consuming me, draining my sanity bit by bit. It felt like the walls of my apartment were closing in on me, like the air itself was too thick to breathe. I tried to calm myself. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was just losing my mind. I hadn't slept in days, maybe that was it. I sat on my couch, my head buried in my hands, but the silence was suffocating. And beneath the quiet, I could hear it again, that slow, deliberate breathing. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It was here. Show yourself. I screamed, my voice breaking the stillness. But there was no answer. Only that deep, unnerving breath, in and out, steady and patient. It was waiting for something. For me to make a mistake, maybe, or for me to fall apart completely. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called Jake. He was the only person I could think of, the only one who might listen. Jake, I said the moment he picked up. I need your help. I think I'm being haunted. There was a long pause on the other end, and for a moment I thought he might hang up. But then he spoke, his voice hesitant. You're not serious, right? I am, I snapped, the panic clear in my voice. I'm not imagining this. I went to that fortune teller, and now I see something behind me. In every reflection, Jake. I can't get away from it. There was another long silence. Okay, calm down, he said, trying to sound rational. It's probably just stress. You're working too much, not sleeping enough. I'll come over, and we'll figure this out, alright? I didn't have the energy to argue. I needed someone here, someone to ground me, to tell me I wasn't completely losing it. Just hurry, I whispered, glancing at the sheet-covered mirrors in my apartment. Jake arrived within the hour. He walked into my apartment, his expression skeptical but concerned. Man, you look like hell, he said, taking in the blankets draped over every reflective surface. You really think there's something following you? I don't think, I muttered. I know. He sighed and pulled the blanket off the bathroom mirror. Look, see? Nothing there. He gestured to the empty reflection, but as I looked, the blood drained from my face. Because there, behind me, was the figure again, its hand inches from my shoulder. I froze. The air around me felt like it had turned to ice. In the mirror, the figure stood so close now, its shadowy hand just above my shoulder, fingers stretched toward me. But when I turned, again, nothing. Just me and Jake standing in the small bathroom, the stale air pressing down on us. Jake stepped back, his face pale as he watched me. I don't see anything, he muttered, but the tremble in his voice betrayed him. He wasn't sure anymore. I wasn't either. Check again, I whispered, barely able to get the words out. My throat felt tight, my heart pounding hard enough to make my chest hurt. Look in the mirror. Jake hesitated, then turned to the mirror slowly. His breath caught in his throat. He squinted, leaning in closer, and then he saw it. His eyes went wide, his face draining of all color. Holy! What the hell is that? He backed away quickly, nearly knocking over the sink. Is that real? I nodded, my hands shaking uncontrollably. It's been following me since I saw that fortune teller. Every time I see my reflection, it's there. Closer. I don't know what it is, but it's coming for me. Jake ran his hand through his hair, pacing the small bathroom like a caged animal. Okay. We'll figure this out. Maybe we can go back to the fortune teller, get her to reverse whatever curse this is. She's gotta know how to stop it, right? She's gone, I said. I went back. The shop's closed. She just disappeared. Jake swore under his breath. Okay, well, maybe there's something else. A ritual or, hell, I don't know, an exorcism? He was scrambling for answers now, but we both knew the truth. There was no escape. The thing in the reflection was getting closer, and soon, it would be more than just a shadow. I walked back into the living room, the air feeling thick, oppressive. The blankets I had draped over the mirrors felt like a flimsy defense now, as if covering the mirrors could somehow keep the thing at bay. But I knew better. I couldn't hide from it forever. As I reached for the curtains to pull them closed, I caught a glimpse of the window's glass. It was there, waiting for me. This time, its hand was resting on my shoulder, its hollow eyes staring directly into mine. I stumbled back, colliding with the coffee table. Jake! I shouted, my voice breaking. It's here. Jake rushed over, his face stricken with fear. What do we do? He asked, his voice shaking. But I had no answer. There was nothing we could do. The figure was no longer just in the reflection, it was becoming part of my reality, inch by inch. The light in the room seemed to dim as the thing's presence grew stronger. The shadows stretched, crawling across the floor like living things. I could feel it now, not just see it. The cold seeped into my bones, and the room itself seemed to close in around me. And then, just as I reached for Jake, my hand passed right through him. He didn't notice. He didn't even flinch. I stared in horror as he stood there, completely oblivious. Jake, I whispered, but he didn't respond. I turned to the nearest mirror, ripping the blanket off with trembling hands. In the reflection, I wasn't there anymore. Only the shadow remained, standing in my place. The thing in the mirror had taken me. The end. Subscribe for more true scary stories. Thanks for watching.